All right, guys, we are back again. COVID cabal. What's going on, people? What's going on? What's going on? What is going on? As usual, if you guys are here, leave a comment in the chat. I want to see who's here. I want to see if my COVID cabal crew is here for this rapid fire COVID cabal. I actually hope I'm going to be able to answer some questions for you guys today because the primary content, we should be able to cover it in the 30 minutes that we got here for COVID Cabal. If you're here, leave a comment in the chat. I also want to hear, speaking of comments in the chat, I want to hear, is this light behind me annoying? Because I got to get the lighting better. I got to get some like proper lighting stuff. I know, guys. COVID Cabal's got to move up. We got to move up. It's just too legit. The content, the material is too legit to just keep doing it so bootleg. But the question is, does this lamp suck? Because in the meantime, I'm trying to, you know, create an impression here. I'm trying to get some decent lighting here. So if you guys are here, leave a comment in the chat. Alan's here, in and out. What's going on, people? What's going on? Leave the comment. We got some interesting stuff today. We got to diagnose this World War III situation that we got in our hands. Otherwise, kind of a slow news day, I would say. Two main things that we got to deal with, though. We got to talk about that. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at this comp. All right, let's see here. Lamp is good. Podcast setup and green screen in season 3 when they finally pay out 20 bets. Man, that is one thing I don't think I'm getting back. I don't think I'm getting back those. Maybe I'll get restitution from the government, and that'll cover for it. That's a possibility. It's a possibility, but it's nothing's guaranteed on that front. And no amount is certain on that front, too. You got some J6ers asking for $1 billion. Hey, take your shot, I suppose. Take your shot. But, Jay, good to see you, brother. All right. Let's get this going. Let's get this moving. So our main topic today is going to be World War III in Europe. I do want to go into that. I want to read some of the tea leaves here because I'm not saying people are freaking out about it, but you know, concerning. But first thing I want to talk about is our new little golly gee whiz. My name is Brillian Holly Hands or whatever the fuck his name is. I guess I'll read this stuff, but basically, I mean, it's a good post. I just don't really feel like reading everything here. But basically, this is the deal with Brillian. This guy shows up immediately. He's on Fox News like an hour after Charlie Kirk's dead. Super suspicious, by the way. I'm sorry. Like, now you really got to think, like, how deep is the conspiracy? I mean, that is like some sketchy stuff right there. But this kid is he comes out of nowhere. He shoots up and he's like, "Oh my God, look, Ben Shapiro. I can't believe I'm on Ben Shapiro's show." So let's read some of this stuff here. Rich Daddy pays for him to be connected to TPUSA and the RNC at an extremely young age. Charlie and TPSA rejected the direction of the RNC under the failed leadership of Ronan McDaniel. Charlie sees how ineffective the RNC is at getting out the youth vote, sees a disaster that is the Youth Advisory Council run by Holly Hand. Charlie starts his own campaign to get out the youth vote separate from the RNC because he knows he just lets the RNC do their thing. We will lose in 2024. Young TPUSA members back Charlie and sign a letter going against Ronan McDaniel, the Youth Advisory Council run by Holly Hand and the RNC. Holly Hand doesn't sign the letter, instead doubles down on his support for Ronan McDaniel and the corrupt RNC. TPUSA distances themselves from Holly Hand after he stabs him in the back in favor of being Rana's lapdog. Charlie Kirk is assassinated, and within hours, Holly Hand and his father launch a campaign lying about their affiliation with Charlie and TPUSA. Hollyhand continues to lie by implying that Charlie was mentoring him to be his replacement and that he is Charlie Kirk's heir apparent. RNC establishment gets him on Fox News and Ben Shapiro to spread the lie everywhere. Hollyhand starts a campus tour and lies about it being sponsored by TPUSA. This is the correct way to analyze this. If Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell had a gay baby. Okay, so this kid sucks. He sucks. I'm gonna say something, and I'm okay to have some pushback on this because I actually do think that there's some exceptions. There's some decent dudes with this, but by and large, I really like. I find this like very. I guess it's like a Christian. I see a lot of Mormons do it, to be honest, but it's kind of like in Mormon or evangelical circles of like the golly gee whiz, like I'm just so excited. This is great. Look at what we're doing. Oh my God, come to Christ. I can't stand this stuff. I can't stand it. Maybe it's because I like the kind of fighter Jesus. I don't like the faggot Jesus, but I appreciate the positivity. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the positivity, but this stuff is like, it's so castrated. It's just too castrated for me. It's too castrated, I think, for everybody on the right when we are at war. You know what I mean? We are literally at war with people who are assassinating people. They're assassinating, they're attacking churches. And by the way, little digression on that. There was this recent attack at a Mormon church and Mormon temple, whatever. And there's been like Christians who have been making, kind of comments like, oh, well, they're not really Christians. I really find this stuff like incredibly disgusting. I really do find it incredibly disgusting on multiple levels. Mormons are first off, even if you want to, without getting into all like the pedantic kind of, I don't want to say pedantic necessarily, because there are definitely theological differences between Mormons and other Christians. And, I personally consider Mormons to be Christians. Okay. Because they have stuff added onto it. But I nevertheless, I mean, I've talked with Mormons extensively about the Bible, and they know it better than, as well as, or better than, many Christians. And I've never seen any incongruence in how they apply the teachings of Jesus. In fact, very often they're even better at it. It's a very effective culture. I like Mormons. I stand by Mormons, notwithstanding that kind of gay Ned Flanders energy that they sometimes bring to things. I'm with these Mormons, and I think I'll just say this. I don't want to. If you're a Christian and you're seeing an attack on people who are your kin, who are also worshiping God, and your first response is to be like, oh, well, you're not really Christians, and like you don't even know what fucking planet we're living on right now. Like, get your head out of your fucking ass. I mean, I don't know. Some of these people, it bothers me enough when I see like constant back and forth between like Catholics and Orthodox and Protestants, as if we're in the 1500s in Europe, and this is the relevant topic of the day. Okay, how about Western civilization's under attack? We're all co-religionists. We all believe in the same God, right? Okay, let's just like work together. Stop being so petty. Most of these churches don't even follow the doctrine anyway. So, I mean, it's just like, to me, it's such a, anyway, digressive. But the point is, I just want to say that because I made a comment about Mormons, and I don't want to do that. I'm not going to pile on right now. I'm with my Mormon brothers. All right. We need Mormons. I support the Mormons. All right. But look, this guy, Hollyrand, total psyop. And I want to give us credit because we sniffed him out in 2 seconds. They really thought, they are so cocky, they really thought they could shove this guy up our ass, and that we would look at this guy and we would somehow be like, oh yeah, it's a new Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a man. He really was a man. Even when I didn't really like enjoy his, which was more earlier in his career, when he'd go on campuses and do these kind of gotcha things. He was a man. He was always a man with how he put out his positions, how he talked about things. I'm just like, we're all tired of this psyop stuff, and that's good. We're sniffing it out immediately. We're not like the left. The left will worship Harry Sisson because Harry Sisson lies, and they just want someone who's going to lie. They don't care. All that's important is that the person worships the lie. Doesn't matter if he's a fake or a fraud. Okay. By the way, I want to say that this is a digression because it's not COVID cabal, but manosphere is the same way. There's a lot of guys in the manosphere who just want the lie. They don't care who tells them. They don't care if the guy is a total fraud. If he tells them the lie they want to hear, they'll continue to listen to him, which is why a lot of the manosphere are actually like spiritually leftist. A lot of them really are. Doesn't matter even what their official policies are. They just are because they worship lies. Okay. If you are the left-right divide at its core is not about policy. It is about those who are interested in ascertaining and following truth. I'm not saying we're perfect or we get everything right, but who are interested, that's their intention, in those who do not care and want their lie to be pushed at all costs. So Brillin is clearly a psyop and whatever. I mean, he's going to disappear in 2 seconds. What I love is that they wasted so much money. I love seeing them waste money. I absolutely love it. I love you know how much his family must have spent millions of dollars to get all that stuff together. It blew up in 24 hours. We are so much smarter than them. But look, let's move on to the bigger topics here because Berlin is going to be forgotten about. In my opinion, I don't think he's going to last. I think he's a flash in the pan. Doesn't have what it takes. Doesn't have the support base. No one's going to be taking these talking points. The big question for us today, the big topic's Ukraine. The big topic is the war. Are we going to war? Well, let's see. Kellogg saying that Kellogg is in Trump's administration. He's been spear pointing a lot of there's kind of two avenues. There's two different individuals who are kind of on this path. I'm blanking on the other guy's name, to be honest, guys. I feel so unprofessional right now. But they're the two people who have basically been spear pointing the conversation with Russia, essentially. And they tend to have different sides. One's kind of, I don't know if it's good cop, bad cop, or one was more interested in the war, one was more interested in economic ties. But Kellogg is saying President Trump is considering letting Ukraine use long-range U.S. missiles to strike deep inside Russia. What Kellogg conveniently doesn't mention is that those missiles wouldn't be fired by the Ukrainian military. They will be operated by NATO specialists located in the German city of Wiesbaden using NATO satellite intelligence. By doing so, effectively paying a bullseye on German soil and inviting Russian retaliation. Okay, so let's take a step back here because this is a very, very important thing to understand. Okay, and I'm going to actually hold on. Let me show one more tweet before I get into this because this is important too. Russian Federation has received information from Hungarian intelligence regarding a possible false flag attack by Ukraine on Poland and Romania. The Kiev regime plans to fly down Iran drones refitted with explosives into Europe and blame it on Russia. Today, Zelensky accused Hungary of violating Ukrainian airspace, which Hungary has denied. Okay. Meanwhile, what I don't have a slide for is that Moldova is going through all this stuff where they're saying, oh, well, you know, Russia's, you know, threatening Moldova or trying to tamper with the elections. Moldova is a total like EU puppet state right now. And an important thing to understand about Moldova, it's a small country, 4 million people. Half the country has Romanian passports. Half the country has Russian passports. Probably a lot of them have both. Point is, Moldovans are ethnically Romanian, unless you're talking about the far south. The Gagauz people are like Turkic, and they, you know, they're more aligned towards Russia. And I'm not even talking about Transnistria, which is not even Moldova. It has not been legally. I mean, it's been legally, but not de facto part of Moldova since the split. That's obviously a Russian, you know, client breakaway territory. But Moldova itself is ethnically Romanian. Moldovan is it's made up. It's just a name of the region. It's the same thing as like, you know, calling, you know, Bavarians, right? Bavarians are not German. Yeah, they're German. They're just from Bavaria. It's not a difference. So they've been starting conscription over there, and they're talking all this stuff. The point is that it'd be very easy for NATO to move forces into Moldova, because they could easily be under the cover of, the Romanian flag, and nobody would know any different, right? You could have Romanian troops rather under the Moldovan flag. No one would know anything about it. So putting all this stuff together, it's clear that things are coming to a head. We have Trump, Secretary of Defense, every general and admiral all meeting at Quantico later this week. And now we have Trump. We have Trump's tweet saying that, post saying that, oh yeah, Ukraine and Europe should go to war. Ukraine and NATO should go to war against Russia. Now's the time. Russia's weak. Ukraine can win the war. You have that. Now you have Trump giving weapons, like allowing Ukraine to fire NATO weapons deep into Russia. And then also you have these allegations, which I think are frankly credible. Although, Russians lie too, but it fits the psychology of the people we're dealing with to have a false flag in Poland and, Romania, right? Okay. So in order to put this all together, you have to look at, you have to have your assumptions right. We always try to go back to the assumptions on this show because otherwise you can get lost. Okay. Now there are people, especially on the Russian side. And to be fair, I understand this position. I totally understand it because you're at war with a country that's being backed by the United States. I think it's a very difficult exercise for a lot of Russians. People like Russians with attitude. It's a good show. Very difficult for them to understand the complexity in American politics. They just don't see it. They see the same sort of Zog. Zog marches on basically and controls America at the end of the day. Trump's just like the rest of them, or controlled by the rest of them. Blah blah blah. So to them, this turn makes perfect sense because Trump was never going to be able to extract himself from the war, and he probably supported it because he's a boomer and he's a neocon. Okay, if that's your perspective, then fair enough. But then I don't think anything else makes sense. I mean, you can see very clearly that Trump and the EU have issues. If you pay attention, you can really, really see that a lot of US policies are really designed against the EU and the Commonwealth. That's where the real fight is happening. Meanwhile, Trump and Putin have private meetings. They're working together really well. Trump is pushing Russia's plan to Zelensky. Zelensky and the EU outright deny it. It's clear that they will not accept peace. So what happens next? What happens next is Trump makes this very strangely worded. I say strangely worded because it's very tough to read it without being sarcastic, because it is in direct contradiction to everything else that Trump has said and everything that we know. It's not like he's got some of the casualty figures a little bit off. It's like complete nonsense. You are going from things that were said to Ukraine that we know that were said to Ukraine about Ukraine's inability to win the war or take back the territory, and that they're catastrophic losses. All of this stuff very clearly said on the record. Now all of a sudden it's like, no, Ukraine can march to Moscow. Ukraine has no problem. Ukraine's going to win this. It just needs a little bit more support. So I see clear, agree, and amplify here. Now, this additional news that they will be giving missiles to Ukraine, quote unquote, to fire against Russia, long-range missiles, and that especially if those missiles actually have to be fired out of Germany, which is conjecture. That may be how they're situated right now, but they maybe can be moved. I don't know the technical details, but let's just even assume that's true. I'm telling you that the plan here is to give Ukraine and Europe exactly what they want. They want this war. Trump's going to give them the war. He's going to give it to him. And I really believe that Trump and Putin have it worked out. He is pushing them into it, and they're going to have to own it. He's going to push them into it, and he's going to rug pull them, and they're going to be fucked. Now, there may be another layer to this as well, and another layer is that this threat of mass annihilation, when you have, two nuclear powers at each other's throat, may be the pretext for certain other actions. Okay? I'm not going to be a Q-tard conspiracy theorist. I don't want to go too much with that, but I am going to say a couple things, okay? God, I have to be a little bit of a Q-tard conspiracy theorist. Dan Scavino is known as the person who relays the signals. He's Trump's social media person. And anyone who's followed this stuff for a long time knows it's quite reliable that Scavino's keyed in to this stuff. So, in the Q drops, they always talk about the sum of all fears, right? Sum of all fears is this like big nuclear standoff. It comes from a movie. And in that, they play Nessun Dorma, right? Scavino put a video clip out of a helicopter playing Nessun Dorma right like a few days ago, right before some of this stuff just broke. Right before, like literally maybe the day before Trump's tweet, he put that out there. So it's a signal to me that they are going to do what we always knew was going to happen, where there is this big escalation to the nuclear conflict. Now, I don't know all the details about this. Before I went to prison, I had followed some of Juan O'Savin's stuff, and he had talked about how there's there's this fight within the military. It's the military industrial complex. I guess you could say just the you have two continuity of government programs. You have Cheyenne Mountain, 1952, created by Eisenhower, and then you have Senior Executive Service, SES, which was created in 47. And that's SES is considered to be more of like the black hat deep state, and Eisenhower created Cheyenne Mountain, Ballistic Missile Command, of which you need to have a Q security clearance to be a part of, Department of Energy clearance, that there's a connection there, right? And that one of the ways that patriots, so to speak, get control over the nuclear, get control over everything in the government system, take everything away from SES's control, is to have things go to a nuclear brink. This is like season 1 COVID cabal, put your fucking tin hat on stuff. But it is food for thought. They're going to push this to the brink, and there are benefits for them doing it. Now, I don't think that we are actually going to be going to war immediately against Russia right now. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of exchanges. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to tell you this. Trump has done over and over and over again. He tells you where he's at, what he feels about something, what his position is. And then he does something that's completely fucking nuts and crazy and deranged. And every time people fall for it, they're wrong. You need to trust the plan, which is trusting Trump, but it's trusting the deeper Trump, right? It's trusting the true Trump. This sounds good. Someone's going to clip this. They're going to be like, what the fuck this guy's talking about? You have to trust the true Trump rather than the persona Trump. Okay? That is how you actually understand what's going on. I'm going to stand by this. Hey, look, if we get into a nuclear exchange with Russia, then I'll admit I was wrong. I mean, we'll all be dead, but I'll admit I was wrong. I'll sign in one last time. COVID cabal. Guys, nukes are flying. This is the last COVID cabal. Just wanted to say you guys were right. I shouldn't have trusted the plan. It's been a good one, you know. I'll be popping my last fine bottle of wine. It'll be over. We know it's not going to happen. You have to trust this. I think, and obviously results will prove me right or wrong, but they've proven me right pretty much on every other occasion with this stuff, right? I mean, my track record is good except for Trump staying in office. That was a big one. That was a big miss, to be honest. But Trump didn't signal anything there. There was none of this obfuscation. I'm pretty good at being able to tell where is Trump going to ultimately end up on something. When is he pushing? And I think a lot of it's because of the stuff I do with my business, with game, and you create a lot of plausible deniability with good game. Trump has good game. Trump messes with your head. You have to really understand what he's doing. And you're like, Trump, you're messing with my head. I know you're not real about that. And he's like, am I? I'm like, I don't know, man. I trust you. I'm ride or die. I trust you. And then he gives me a presidential pardon. So anyway, so we'll see what happens. But as always, it comes down to, like, I want to encourage you guys to not discard your assumptions, because if you've developed an assumption that is based on that's been verified over time, corroborated, let's say, over time, doesn't mean that you never challenge it. You always should test it. But to me, what we're seeing here fits the same pattern as always. He wants the Europeans to go to war against Russia. He wants to give them, he realizes he's not going to be able to get them to sue for peace. He's made his best efforts to sue for peace. He is not going to escalate the war for America. It is so contrary. In the same way that everyone said he's going to go in this big war against Iran, he does some short strikes, take him out. Now, I will say this. It's possible that Trump is frustrated at Putin. It's possible. It's possible. And that maybe he's annoyed that Putin's not doing what he wants. And this is maybe another big bluff. But the clearer vision, the clearer argument to me is the way to break the Europeans is to give them what they want. Because what they want is for America to do all this stuff. But this is all the things that they've been asking for. And Trump's already shown he's willing to do that, because he got them, he continued funding Ukraine in exchange for massive tariffs all across Europe in, trade agreements that were beneficial to the United States. He got them to commit to 5%, NATO spending to buy American arms for the war in Ukraine. So in every other way, what we've been seeing is what? We have been seeing that he is trying to cut Europe off from the rest of the world. You even see this. This is Tom Luongo's analysis, by the way, but he's totally on point with it. That so much of the stuff with India, pushing India away, is actually to push India away from Britain, because India and Britain are super tied together. He's trying to push India into Russia's arms away from Britain, because it's another way to further screw the British Empire. So anyway, guys, this is what I see happening here. All right. And last thing I'll just say is, the Comey arrest has happened, and it's the start of more things to go. A lot of this Q stuff, it's always like the first arrest will shock the world. That was never a post. The first arrest will verify action and confirm future direction. I think the future direction is really clear. We're learning more about January 6th coming out. We're learning about the fact that there are 270 agents on the ground. Ray lied about that to Congress. It's coming out, guys. We got to be patient. We got to get through it. But we are going to see more and more violence as time goes on from the left, partly because they're the left, but also because this is literally, there's this like satanic movement. Someone asked in the chat here, why are they attacking the church? Why are they attacking these churches? Well, I'll tell you guys, they are attacking the churches because they're demonic. That's what they're doing. So look, I love you guys. I got to run, but I will see you next time on COVID Cabal later this week. I don't know if it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday. We'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll wait till Thursday, because that's when we're going to find out about that meeting. Maybe. All right, guys, take care.